Tuesday. Terminal floors. TSA agent Blake Harrison barely looks up from his station. 26 years old, 8 months on the job, fresh from basic training. He sees a black woman traveling alone and makes instant calculations. "Ma'am, step aside for additional screening." The announcement echoes through the checkpoint area. Other passengers turn to stare. Career TSA employee with 12 years of checkpoint experience. He's handled thousands of screening disputes, but something about this passenger seems different. Kane approaches with practiced authority. "Is there a problem here?" Kane asks, positioning himself to tower over Jasmine's 5'4" frame. She remains perfectly composed, hands folded, showing no signs of agitation or defiance. "I simply asked why enhanced screening was necessary. My initial scan showed no irregularities." Kane's confidence builds. "Ma'am, we don't explain our security procedures to passengers. That's classified information. You need to comply with agent directives immediately." Diamond's phone records every word, her viewer count climbing as she streams live on Instagram. Other passengers begin recording too. Kevin Torres, a frequent business traveler, recognizes the brewing controversy. His Twitter account has 15,000 followers who are about to witness something significant. Jasmine checks her watch, a understated Omega that costs more than Harrison's annual salary. "I have a 8:15 flight to Los Angeles. How long will this additional screening take?" Harrison exchanges glances with Kane. Both men sense resistance they're determined to crush. "Ma'am, attitude like that is exactly why you're getting enhanced screening. People like you think rules don't apply." The phrase "people like you" echoes through Checkpoint Alpha. Diamond's live stream viewer count jumps from 200 to 1,230 in 30 seconds. Comments pour in expressing outrage at the obvious racial profiling. Other travelers pull out phones, instinctively recognizing injustice. Jasmine opens her purse, retrieving her identification. Her movement is deliberate, unhurried. She presents her credentials without drama or confrontation. Kane glances at the ID dismissively. "Dr. Parker, big deal. Lots of people have fancy titles." The screening process stretches beyond reasonable duration. Harrison examines every item in Jasmine's carry-on luggage with exaggerated thoroughness. Each delay is intentional, designed to miss her flight and teach a lesson about challenging TSA authority. "Ma'am, this laptop seems suspicious," Harrison announces. "Standard business laptop," Jasmine replies calmly. "We'll need to run additional tests. The laptop is a top-of-the-line model worth $4,000, clearly not suspicious by any reasonable standard." Kane positions himself where other passengers can hear clearly. These enhanced screenings usually reveal contraband or suspicious materials. People who resist standard procedures typically have something to hide. Jasmine checks her watch again. 7:15 a.m. "My flight boards in 45 minutes. How much longer will this take?" Harrison's satisfaction is obvious. "Depends on your cooperation level, ma'am." Attitude determines timeline. Foster approaches the screening area, tablet in hand. She's been monitoring the situation through security cameras and growing social media attention. Her airport operations experience tells her this situation requires careful management. Diamond's live stream hits 3,000 viewers as word spreads across social platforms. Her commentary becomes increasingly pointed. "Y'all, this is textbook racial profiling. They're torturing this professional woman for no reason." Harrison M. to the phone. "Ma'am, no phone calls during enhanced screening procedures." Jasmine's calm begins showing signs of strain. This call is time-sensitive regarding national security matters. Kane laughs openly. "National security? Now she's claiming national security clearance," he announces to gathered passengers. These stories get more elaborate when people realize they're caught. The phone stops ringing. Jasmine's expression shows the first sign of genuine concern. "That was Deputy Director Stevens from Homeland Security. He's expecting my arrival in Los Angeles for critical policy meetings." Harrison's confidence soars. "Right, and I'm sure the president is calling next. People like you always name drop when facing consequences." The enhanced screening booth becomes a theater of public humiliation. Foster's tablet chimes with urgent messages from Reagan National's crisis management team. Social media attention has reached critical mass. Local news stations are monitoring the trending hashtags. Kevin Torres posts another Twitter update. Hour-long TSA harassment continues. Woman claims federal security connections. Plot twist coming? His followers share rapidly, expanding the story's reach. Diamond's live stream viewer count surpasses 4,000. Comments demand justice, accountability, and investigation into TSA procedures. Screenshots circulate on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok with increasing velocity. 7:35 a.m. Jasmine's flight begins boarding at Gate 23. The timing is no coincidence. Harrison and Kane have orchestrated this delay to ensure she misses her connection and learns appropriate lessons about challenging authority. "Ma'am, final inspection of your documentation," Kane announces. He examines her driver's license, credit cards, and business cards with theatrical precision. everything designed to waste maximum time while establishing power dynamics. Jasmine's phone rings again. This time the caller ID shows a government seal. She looks at Kane directly. Deputy Director Stevens, Department of Homeland Security. This call is regarding federal transportation security policy. Kane blocks her access to the phone again. Ma'am, I told you no calls during screening. Jasmine's composure finally shows cracks. You're preventing communication regarding national security matters that directly affect this airport. As Jasmine wheels her luggage toward the gate area, her phone rings immediately. The caller ID again shows Homeland Security's official seal. She answers while walking rapidly toward her departing flight. Deputy Director Stevens, Dr. Parker here. Yes, I'm running late due to TSA screening delays. The irony will become clear shortly when someone discovers exactly who they just subjected to enhanced screening. Diamond continues live streaming Jasmine's departure from the checkpoint. Y'all, something about this woman suggests we haven't heard the full story yet. Professional, calm under pressure, federal connections. This might get interesting. Behind them, Harrison and Kane return to routine screening procedures, completely unaware they've just harassed the woman who helped write the very TSA protocols they claim to enforce. Gate 23 buzzes with final boarding activity. Jasmine approaches the desk breathlessly, her professional composure slightly frayed from the checkpoint ordeal. The gate agent, Amanda Mitchell, checks her boarding pass with routine efficiency. Dr. Parker, you're cutting it close. The door closes in 2 minutes. Jasmine hands over her credentials, still processing the morning's events. TSA enhanced screening took longer than expected. Amanda's expression shifts slightly as she processes the first-class upgrade and frequent flyer status. Business or pleasure in Los Angeles? Federal consultation meetings regarding transportation security policy. The plane's engines whir as Jasmine settles into seat 2 amperes. Her phone immediately buzzes with missed calls from Deputy Director Stevens, Assistant Secretary Reynolds, and Federal Security Advisor Martinez. The morning's delay has created ripple effects through federal scheduling. Flight attendant B notices her federal documentation. Homeland Security work? He asks conversationally. Transportation Security Policy Development, specifically bias prevention protocols. Terrence's interest sharpens. I'm a civil rights attorney. Been following TSA discrimination cases for years. Your work must be fascinating, especially given current challenges with implementation. Current challenges indeed, Jasmine responds, thinking about the morning's events. Sometimes the gap between policy creation and ground-level implementation reveals fundamental problems. As the plane ascends over Washington, Jasmine reviews social media notifications that had accumulated during boarding. Diamond's live stream has reached 25,000 views. Kevin Torres's Twitter thread has 15,000 retweets. The hashtag #TSA Heil Brown is beginning to trend. Her phone contains 47 missed calls. Kevin Torres posts updates tracking social media momentum. Number: TSA while Brown reaches 100,000 mentions across platforms. Traditional media outlets request interviews with original posters and witnesses. Federal officials prepare comprehensive response strategies. The woman subjected to discriminatory screening possesses inside knowledge of policy implementation challenges. Her experience validates years of civil rights concerns. As the plane touches down at LAX, Jasmine's phone explodes with notifications. Federal Security Advisor Martinez, Dr. Parker, press conference scheduled 3 p.m. PST. Need your input on response strategy immediately. Deputy Director Stevens, Congressional Oversight Committee, requesting briefing on implementation gaps between policy and practice. Your experience provides critical evidence. Assistant Secretary Reynolds, media requests from every major outlet. Need guidance on federal employee protection protocols during official travel. Terrence offers his business card. Dr. Parker, if you decide to pursue legal action, I'd be honored to represent you. This case could establish important precedents for federal employee rights. Jasmine accepts the card thoughtfully. Legal action might be necessary, but policy reform remains the priority. Individual justice doesn't solve systemic problems without comprehensive change. The airplane Stevens reviews damage control options. Dr. Parker, we have several response strategies. Individual accountability focuses on disciplining agents Harrison and Kane. Systematic reform addresses policy implementation gaps. Jasmine considers the implications of each approach. Individual accountability provides temporary satisfaction but doesn't prevent future incidents. Systematic reform requires comprehensive changes to training, oversight, and accountability measures. The conference room door opens to admit legal counsel David Morrison, carrying thick folders of precedent cases and regulatory guidelines. Federal employee discrimination during official travel creates complex jurisdictional questions. Morrison spreads legal documents across the table. Dr. Parker, your status as policy creator who experienced discrimination represents unprecedented circumstances. Civil rights law intersects with federal employee protections. Martinez's secure phone buzzes with another priority message. Congressional Black Caucus demanding immediate meeting with Homeland Security leadership. They're specifically requesting Dr. Parker's participation. Reynolds reviews media strategy options on her screen. Proactive disclosure allows us to control narrative timing. Reactive response lets others frame the story first. Stevens pulls up organizational charts showing TSA command structure. Agent Harrison reports to Supervisor Kane, who reports to Checkpoint Manager Foster, who reports to Airport Security Director Williams. Accountability measures need to address every level of failure, Jasmine observes. This wasn't just individual bias. It was systematic breakdown of discrimination prevention protocols. Morrison Stevens pulls up internal TSA documents showing policy implementation statistics. Anti-discrimination training completion rates exceed 95% across all regions, but incident reports suggest training effectiveness remains questionable. Legal counsel Morrison reviews constitutional law precedents relevant to congressional testimony. Dr. Parker, your dual role as policy creator and discrimination victim creates unique evidentiary value for committee oversight. Jasmine considers the broader implications of her upcoming testimony. Individual accountability for agents Harrison and Kane addresses symptoms. Systematic policy reform addresses root causes of discrimination. Congressional Liaison Foster receives priority messages from Capitol Hill staffers. Committee members are preparing pointed questions about the gap between federal policy creation and ground-level implementation. The monitors show morning news coverage from major networks. CNN leads with TSA discrimination expert testifies tomorrow. MSNBC features panel discussions about bias in federal law enforcement. Chief Counsel Martinez reviews witness protection protocols for congressional testimony. Dr. Parker, civil rights testimony often generates threats from extremist groups. Federal security measures will be comprehensive. Stevens displays TSA organizational charts showing command structure failures. Agent Harrison's supervisor, Manager Kane, received commendation for checkpoint efficiency last quarter. Performance metrics didn't measure discrimination prevention. Legal counsel Morrison highlights relevant case law for committee questions. Previous federal employee discrimination cases resulted in policy changes, settlement payments, and congressional oversight requirements. The conference strategies for hostile questioning. Some committee members may challenge federal employee credibility or question discrimination claims. Legal counsel Morrison reviews procedural requirements for congressional testimony under oath. Dr. Parker, perjury protections apply, but political theater can create reputational risks. The monitors display breaking news alerts about related TSA incidents. 3 additional discrimination complaints filed since Dr. Parker's incident gained national attention. Pattern evidence emerges. Reynolds coordinates with White House press secretary for post-testimony media strategy. Presidential support for Dr. Parker's recommendations enhances administration's civil rights credentials. Congressional Liaison Foster reviews committee member voting records on civil rights legislation. Bipartisan support exists for transportation, security, discrimination prevention measures. Stevens displays internal TSA communications showing defensive responses to media coverage. Agency leadership struggled to explain policy implementation failures at Reagan National Airport. Jasmine analyzes testimony questions prepared by committee staff. Specific inquiries focus on training inadequacy, oversight failures, and accountability measures for discriminatory behavior. Chief Counsel Martinez reviews security protocols for witness transportation to Capitol Hill. Federal Protective Services coordinate with Capitol Police for comprehensive safety measures. Legal counsel Morrison prepares backup documentation supporting Dr. Parker's policy expertise. Academic credentials, research publications, and federal consultation history establish credibility. The conference room atmosphere intensifies as testimony preparation enters final phases. Dr. Parker's experience represents broader challenges in federal policy implementation. Reynolds receives priority messages from administration officials. Vice President's office wants coordination on civil rights messaging following congressional testimony. Congressional liaison Foster reviews media interview requests flooding federal communications offices. Every major outlet wants exclusive access to Dr. Parker before and after testimony. Stevens analyzes TSA incident report data showing discrimination complaint patterns. Dr. Parker's experience validates years of civil rights organization concerns about systematic bias. The monitors show afternoon news previews highlighting tomorrow's congressional hearings. Expert who wrote TSA policy faces discrimination, leads network coverage. Chief Counsel Martinez finalizes witness preparation protocols. Dr. Parker, congressional testimony creates permanent public record. Every statement becomes policy precedent. Jasmine reviews her comprehensive reform recommendations, connecting individual incident to systematic solutions. Congressional committees need specific, actionable proposals for immediate implementation. Legal counsel Morrison coordinates with congressional security for hearing room safety measures. High-profile civil rights testimony often generates disruption attempts. The preparation session continues as federal officials recognize the historic nature of tomorrow's hearings. Individual discrimination incident has become catalyst for comprehensive transportation security reform. Outside headquarters windows, Washington, D.C. traffic moves through its Monday afternoon rhythm. Inside, federal officials prepare testimony that could reshape TSA discrimination prevention protocols nationwide. Tomorrow's congressional hearings would determine whether systematic bias in federal law enforcement faces meaningful accountability or continues through inadequate oversight. Hart Senate Office Building, Room 216, Tuesday, 10 a.m. The Senate Homeland Security Committee convenes with unprecedented media attention. Every seat in the gallery is occupied. News discrimination in transportation security and implementation of federal anti-bias policies. Our first witness is Dr. Jasmine Parker, policy expert and recent victim of TSA discrimination. Jasmine approaches the witness table with measured confidence. Her navy blue business suit conveys professional authority. Behind her, gallery observers include Jasmine speaks directly into the microphone. I hold a Ph.D. in public policy from Georgetown University with specialization in discrimination prevention in federal law enforcement. I've consulted with Homeland Security for 8 years on bias reduction protocols. The committee members lean forward as she continues. I was the primary researcher for the Anti-Discrimination in Transportation Security Act of 2019, which established current TSA bias prevention requirements. Senator Hayes highlights the irony. So you literally wrote the policies that were violated during your recent airport experience? That's correct. The incident at Reagan National Airport demonstrated systematic failure of protocols I helped create. Committee member Senator Michael Torres requests specific details. Dr. Parker, walk us through exactly what happened at Checkpoint Alpha on Tuesday morning. Jasmine recounts events, with clinical precision. Agent Blake Harrison selected me for enhanced screening based on visual profiling. I was traveling on official federal business to Los Angeles for transportation security consultations. She continued. 5% higher screening rates. Asian travelers experienced 29% increased scrutiny. These disparities persist despite anti-discrimination training. Ranking Member Hayes requests specific reform recommendations. What systematic changes would prevent future incidents like yours? Jasmine presents comprehensive proposals. Mandatory unconscious bias training every 6 months for all TSA personnel. Real-time discrimination monitoring systems with algorithmic bias detection. She continues with detailed She continues with technology solutions. Passenger screening selection must use objective criteria documented in electronic systems. Random selection algorithms prevent subjective profiling. Senator Brooks examines implementation timelines. How quickly can these comprehensive reforms be deployed across all TSA checkpoints? Technology deployment requires 6-month development and testing phase, Jasmine explains. Training program redesign needs 4 months for curriculum development. Full implementation achievable within 12 months with adequate funding. Committee Chair Davis highlights urgency. Dr. Parker, since your incident, 3 additional discrimination complaints have been filed. Pattern suggests widespread implementation problems. The data support I didn't select her because of race, Harrison protests. I selected her because she seemed suspicious. Senator Torres reviews behavioral analysis from security footage. Agent Harrison, expert analysis of this video shows Dr. Parker displaying no behavioral indicators typically associated with security threats. Her composure, cooperation, and calm demeanor suggest experienced business travel. The committee member continues, what specific behavioral patterns did you observe that contradicted this professional assessment? Harrison's credibility crumbles under detailed questioning. I might have misinterpreted her behavior. Committee Chair Davis shifts focus to policy implementation. Agent Harrison, when did you first realize Dr. Parker was a federal employee traveling on official business? When Deputy Director Stevens arrived and identified her, Harrison admits quietly. Senator Davis emphasizes the timeline. So, for nearly an hour, you subjected a federal policy expert to discriminatory screening while she attempted to inform you of her official status? Reynolds that were violated during her airport experience. How do you explain such fundamental implementation failure? Reynolds reviews prepared talking points. Policy creation and field implementation face natural challenges requiring sustained training, oversight, and accountability measures. Committee Chair Davis highlights irony. Administrator Reynolds, the woman who created your bias prevention policies, experienced discrimination from agents trained in those same policies. This suggests systematic training inadequacy. Reynolds acknowledges training improvements needed. We're implementing enhanced bias prevention curricula based on recent incident analysis and congressional oversight feedback. Senator Brooks examines budget priorities. And historical performance metrics. Senator Hayes questions performance measurement. Administrator Reynolds, if current prevention programs were effective, litigation costs should decline rather than increase annually. Valid point, Senator Hayes, Reynolds admits. We're reassessing prevention program effectiveness and considering enhanced resource allocation. Deputy Administrator Chen requests permission to address technology solutions. Senator Davis, we're developing algorithmic bias detection systems to identify discrimination patterns in real time. Senator Torres examines implementation timelines. Deputy Administrator Chen, when will these systems be deployed across all airports? Chen reviews development schedules. Beta testing begins in 6 months. Full deployment requires 18 months for comprehensive implementation. Senator Kim questions adequacy. Deputy Administrator Chen, 18 months allows countless additional discrimination incidents. Why not accelerate deployment? Resource constraints and testing requirements prevent faster implementation, Chen explains. Premature deployment could create operational disruptions. Committee Chair Davis focuses on leadership accountability. Administrator Reynolds, this committee has heard testimony revealing discrimination, training failures, oversight gaps, and management resistance. What personal accountability do you accept? Reynolds maintains bureaucratic distance. Administrative accountability exists within established federal oversight systems and performance evaluation procedures. Senator Hayes demands specificity. Administrator Reynolds, will you personally guarantee that comprehensive discrimination prevention reforms will be implemented within 6 months? Reynolds hedges commitment. We commit to aggressive reform implementation within available resources and operational constraints. Senator Torres highlights evasion. Administrator Reynolds, congressional oversight requires specific commitments with measurable timelines. Vague promises about available resources don't address civil rights violations. Legal counsel Mitchell interjects, committee members, federal agencies must balance civil rights compliance with operational security requirements and budget limitations. Senator Kim rejects the excuse. Counsel Mitchell, civil rights compliance isn't negotiable based on budget convenience. Federal agencies must prioritize constitutional obligations. Committee Chair Davis examines reform specifics. Administrator Reynolds provides specific commitments for bias prevention training frequency, discrimination monitoring systems, and accountability measures. Reynolds consults with staff before responding. Monthly bias prevention training for all customer-facing personnel. Quarterly discrimination pattern analysis for all airports. Annual civil rights compliance auditing. Senator Brooks questions enforcement mechanisms. Administrator Reynolds, how will headquarters ensure field compliance with these enhanced requirements? Regional performance metrics will include civil rights compliance scores, Reynolds explains. Career advancement. TSA provide for discrimination victims like Dr. Parker. Individual remedy discussions occur through established claims processes, Reynolds responds evasively. Senator Hayes summarizes congressional expectations. Comprehensive discrimination prevention training. Real-time bias monitoring systems. Individual accountability for violations. Victim compensation and apology. Administrator Reynolds acknowledges congressional concerns while maintaining agency positions. We commit to working with Congress on feasible reform implementation within federal constraints. Senator Kim concludes questioning. Administrator Reynolds, feasible reform means preventing future Dr. Parker incidents through systematic change rather than managing congressional relations. The hearing concludes with Administrator Reynolds promising written follow-up responses to specific reform questions. Committee Chair Davis announces final session schedule. Tomorrow we hear recommendations from civil rights experts and community advocates regarding TSA reform requirements. As federal leadership exits, their testimony reveals institutional resistance to comprehensive accountability. Despite overwhelming evidence of systematic discrimination problems, gallery observers include civil rights attorneys preparing litigation strategies based on congressional testimony, revealing federal admission of training inadequacy and implementation failures. Social media coverage amplifies demands for accelerated reform timelines, while federal officials coordinate damage control strategies. Hart Senate Office Building, Room 216, Thursday, 10 a.m. The final hearing session convenes with civil rights leaders, legal experts, and community advocates prepared to present comprehensive reform recommendations. Committee Chair Senator Davis opens the session. Today, we conclude our oversight hearings with expert testimony on systematic solutions for TSA discrimination prevention. NAACP Legal Defense Fund Director Tiffany Rodriguez approaches the witness table carrying extensive documentation of TSA discrimination cases nationwide. Her organization's litigation experience provides crucial perspective on systematic bias patterns. Senator Davis administers the oath. Director Rodriguez, thank you for appearing to share your organization's expertise on transportation security discrimination. Rodriguez projects confident authority developed through decades of civil rights advocacy. Senator Davis, The NAACP Legal Defense Fund has represented over 200 TSA discrimination victims in the past 5 years. Dr. Parker's experience reflects systematic bias rather than isolated incidents. Committee Ranking Member Hayes requests statistical analysis. Director Rodriguez, what patterns emerge from your discrimination case documentation? Rodriguez presents comprehensive data. African American travelers face enhanced screening at rates 340% higher than statistical population representation. Hispanic travelers experience 180% higher screening rates. Asian travelers face 140% increased scrutiny. She continues with detailed analysis. These disparities persist across all airports, time periods, and security threat levels. Individual agent bias combines with institutional policy failures. Senator Torres examines legal implications. Director Rodriguez, what constitutional violations does systematic TSA discrimination represent? Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable search and seizure, Rodriguez explains. 14th Amendment equal protection guarantees. Civil Rights Act violations through discriminatory federal law enforcement. Senator Kim requests specific reform recommendations. Director Rodriguez, what systematic changes would address these constitutional violations? Mandatory bias prevention training every 3 months rather than annually, Rodriguez recommends. Independent civil rights monitoring boards with community representation, real-time discrimination reporting systems. She presents additional proposals. Algorithmic bias detection in passenger screening selection. Financial penalties for airports with discrimination complaint patterns. Federal funding tied to civil rights compliance metrics. American civil liberties. Union Legal Director Shane Mitchell approaches for testimony. His organization's constitutional expertise provides federal policy framework for comprehensive reform. Senator Davis administers the oath to Mitchell. Director Mitchell, how does TSA discrimination affect broader constitutional law enforcement? Mitchell projects legal authority. Senator Davis, transportation security discrimination undermines constitutional protections across all federal law enforcement agencies. TSA bias enables similar violations in other federal contexts. Committee Chair Davis examines precedent implications. Director Mitchell, how would comprehensive TSA reform affect federal law enforcement generally? Constitutional compliance in transportation security establishes precedent for bias prevention across ICE, CBP, FBI, and other federal agencies, Mitchell explains. Senator Brooks questions implementation challenges. Director Mitchell, federal agencies often resist civil rights compliance requirements. How do we ensure sustainable reform? Congressional oversight with mandatory progress reporting, Mitchell recommends. Federal court jurisdiction for discrimination complaints. Civil rights organization monitoring authority. Community advocate and frequent traveler Diamond